we want to tell you about the 5 brutal truths no one told us before starting a podcast. Turns out it's a little harder than it looks.
It is a little harder.
It's a little harder than it looks, but that's okay because we've learned, we've been through it. But man, it's been a journey.
Yeah,
we've been doing this like a month now. About
2 months. Well, we've been posting things for about a month now.
But yeah, all that. So today we're gonna dive into just everything about those truths, what that means, what that looks like. So
yeah, let's go over them. So
I'll give it to you.
The first one that we have found is figuring out the audio engineering. Second one is, come to find out, when you're doing a podcast, it matters how you speak.
A lot harder than it looks. A lot of ums, a lot of likes.
Who would have thought? The third is figuring out the script beforehand and all the planning involved in that. Fourth is the consistency that we need to be able to be on top of scheduling and recording and posting. And lastly, the fifth one is editing everything. Figuring out, what does the thumbnail look like? How does this sound? What do we want the video to look like? So those are the 5 brutal truths that we have found. No one told us when we started this podcast a month or 2 ago.
Turns out there's not a manual, so we want to go through every single one. So the first one being engineering, audio engineering. That's a huge part. A huge part of podcasting is making sure you sound good, you're clear. No one likes to listen to something where it's staticky.
No one likes
exactly like that. And so turns out it's harder. You were a big part in that. Tell us a little bit about it more.
Yeah, I have some experience with doing audio engineering. I actually was hired by a school to take some videos that they had made for some extracurricular stuff and edit it into a podcast. So I had to go through and remove comments that kids made. I had to remove all the ums, the likes, the buts, all that, and make it sound really good. And so I used Logic Pro for that. And so when we started talking about this, we were talking about how do we want to edit our audio. And I was like, I got Logic Pro. It works pretty well. So I think that's a great bit to do. So that's what we did. And that's what we've been using. And it's worked out pretty well, I think.
I think it has. I mean, we bought multiple mixers,
Yeah.
audio interfaces that we thought we knew what it was, because the first one we had only worked for like live instruments, right? Or it was like it didn't, and we're like, no, it wasn't very clear on the description.
Turns out there's a difference between audio interface and mixer, and a mixer is more for, like you said, that live band type feeling or DJ, and audio interface is what we needed to use. And it said audio interface on Amazon when we bought it. But
so our mistake, maybe some of you guys out there who are much better and much smarter at this already knew that. But again, just something we didn't know. We had to learn and had to do it. So
yeah, and I think one of the things that I didn't realize was how much filler I put into this. Still, I'm trying to work on it, but like the ums and likes and buts. You know what I mean?
No, for sure. Exactly. And that's exactly number 2, is the actual talking and speaking of the podcast. So we're pretty good friends. We've known each other now for almost a couple of years now.
Yeah.
Introduced by a mutual friend. And so
in the chair.
Our guy in the chair, shout out. We thought we had pretty good chemistry. And I think we still do. But when it's actually live, time to go, the amount of times I'm looking back and saying like this, like Mitch, like it's so annoying. And
I love this. I love that. I love.
We repeat ourselves so much. It's not as easy to be as articulate, snappy, quick with it, and so it's been a learning curve. And it shouldn't have been a surprise, but it was honestly surprising to me because I kind of thought that's the easiest part. It's fun. It's just me and my friend talking our favorite stuff, talking Star Wars, talking improving our lives, like everything. But it's hard to be engaging. It's hard to be quick. It's hard to not ramble on. Literally, as I'm thinking right now, I'm like, am I speaking too much? Am I too? I don't know. So it's been a journey.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
Thanks, Coach.
We just ask for a little bit of grace on our earlier videos. Even for this real. One, we're trying. We are working on it, which is the whole point of this like skill of like practicing these things. There, I said it again. I said like.
Yeah, give us a break. catch us in 3 more months. We'll be even better. So
We will be better.
we will be better.
So the next skill, the third one that we really found out that we didn't think would be as difficult, I would say, is the actual planning of what we're going to talk about. The script, the outline, who's going to say what, who's going to interject. I remember those first 2 videos we did. We just clicked record and we started talking, and those were fine. I think we've done a lot better at being coordinated, and
We always wanted it to be a conversation, and we've done still good at that. But we did find that, especially for posting short form and other content, it's nice to have a little bit of direction or questions to ask,
yeah,
and a little bit of more of when are you going to speak, when am I going to speak, because we like talking to each other. We want it to feel like that, but sometimes when it's both of us just rambling over each other, stumbling over our words, it doesn't sound that great. So
I also found that doing the planning, I realized there were hot takes that I had that I didn't realize I was as passionate about. And so talking about it beforehand and being like, this is what I really want to speak about. And you being like, I didn't know that. And same thing where you said, I want to talk about this in Andor. We need to talk about that. I need to say it. And we were able to really understand where the other was coming from. And I think it helped improve our chemistry.
100%.
So I think if you're starting a podcast for the first time, planning and what are you going to say sounds obvious, but it wasn't as simple going into as I thought it would be.
Even when we first did it, we did it probably like a 5-minute, just like, oh, here's the topic, here's maybe one thing or two, and that was it. But taking like 15 to 30 good minutes of back and forth between us before we even record or planning ahead has helped tremendously.
Tremendously.
And so that's a brutal truth right there of knowing the planning is a lot more than you think.
Yep.
A lot more.
And I think that kind of goes into our next one of not only like planning the podcast and what are we going to say, but how consistent are we going to be? And I can't remember. Doesn't Gary Vee say something about content and consistency?
He always does. He's content? You want content? Some of you are so unhappy. Just do it. If you just found something you're passionate about and posted every day, the quickest way to make $10,000 is garage sailing. I promise you, garage sailing. I've listened to too much Gary Vee, but
I was not prepared for that, but that was incredible.
All the times.
At Gary Vee.
He's always saying to post, and so that it's brutal truth number 4 is consistency. Always needing to post. I didn't realize I don't even want to call myself this because I kind of cringe, but a content creator. But I realized one of the hard things is it is a little business. It's a job. Like needing to post something every single day gets a little taxing, a little tiring. As simple as you're just filming yourself and talking, but to post something, make sure it's quality, something you like, and just it doesn't stop. Each week it's all right, we're back to the new thing. We need a new we don't just have one product and then sell it, so to speak, or whatever, like another traditional business.
Yeah.
It's like we need to make we're the product, new content every single week and post it every single day.
Yeah.
And so I didn't realize how taxing and how much that would be like, all right, no matter what, like something needs to be going out today, no matter what. And so that consistency can be a lot, and it's not just all fun and games. It's a lot of work. So that's a brutal truth I learned.
I so agree. I remember the week that it was Monday and I was sick and I said, guys, I don't think we can record tonight. It was more like, guys,
He sounded pretty bad.
I don't think I can record tonight. And we were like, no, you cannot record. And so we said, but we have to get the content out there and we have to be consistent. And so we did. The next day we filmed and recorded and we edited all that same night. Like it was a crazy night. And then the next week you were sick.
Yeah.
Something was going around. And I think that was one of the things that said for me, like, we are in this. When we had those back-to-back weeks of being sick, lost our voice, couldn't do it, and we pushed through the best way that I could.
We're just listening to our guy in the chair. He knows the algo like the back of his hands. So, but that's what YouTube likes. That's what the likes, content going out all the time, and so you just can't really miss, and you got to just keep producing something, putting out there. So, it's a brutal truth, and just know if you're serious about it and where we want to go, and we have some big goals we're going to share later, but you need to be posting every single day.
Yeah.
You need to have something going out and building that momentum. So,
well, with that goal, one of our goals is a year from when we first posted. So May 6th was the first date that we posted something. May 6th, 2026, we want to be at 100,000 subscribers. That's a big, lofty goal, and we need your help to do that.
We're shooting for the moon.
We are shooting for the moon. But we've had some decent following, and we're appreciative of you. So we'd love any help that we can get with that.
Yeah, and like I said, we're going to do our best to improve, be better at our end of making more things more engaging, more higher quality, and it's going to be a journey, but we want to shoot for something big, and we do believe in a year we have what it takes to make it. So
yeah. And the last brutal truth.
Brutal truth number 5.
Yes. Is editing. Editing long form content, editing the short form content, creating the thumbnails, creating the show notes and the description, finding out what hashtags we want to use if we want to use them. That was a big chunk of trying to figure out how do we actually do this? What software are we going to use? I remember when we were doing the long form editing of the 3 camera angles, trying to get it into one, using Premiere Pro. And that first one took forever. And then we finally learned some tricks. And I say we, the royal we, our guy in the chair learned the trick. The multi-camera angle or view and being able to just use that to do that, that sped everything up. But that was part of the whole learning process. And I wish somebody would have said, hey, editing is going to take a lot longer than you may think. And it would have probably had my eyes open a lot more if I did that.
Amen to that. This is going to be dumb, but it's as hard as editing in Fortnite, so...
You and the Fortnite.
It's the same. It's a skill need to be learned.
It's the foundation of us, Fortnite.
It's how we got... it's how we got started. I don't make the rules, so... But yeah, every single thing editing is just a lot more than you think, and getting the actual finished product post out, even just the hashtags, the descriptions, everything you write, how it looks, let's say the thumbnail, it's a lot of work. Yeah. It's a lot of different things, and getting all the short form out, and like you said, combining those 3 angles.
Well, and I didn't realize how much time it would take in the exporting of, like, packaging the whole thing together, because we're using 3 cameras and we're using 4K for that, and
3 files that need to be
3 files that need to be merged into one, and they're averaging 15 to 30 gigs per video, and that takes a while to export and package. And so we can't even start throwing out short form content till we work on that, and so that timing I was unprepared for, and it's taken a lot longer than I was anticipating.
It definitely has been a bottleneck in the past. So,
but we figured it out.
We did. And so those are the 5 brutal truths that we, kind of the biggest ones. There's still more little nitty-gritty details, but those are the 5 main ones we went over again. The audio engineering, actually talking, speaking, the actual podcasting, the script and all the planning beforehand of topics, what you're going to say, how you're going to say it. Consistency, always need to post before. And the number 5, everything editing. But that brings us to this next little segment. So we haven't had a ton of viewers, but we had some. The skill we were gonna learn in the 21st hour of the 20 hours was gonna be chess. We let you down a little bit because we figured that the actual skill we were learning was podcasting. So our bad. That's on us. We were really excited about it. Really wanted to get into it, and so I think we're gonna do that for this next month, or push it out. But this last month was all about learning the art of podcasting.
Yeah.
And all those different things, from the actual talking, the planning, the business meetings, the editing, the setup. And so we wanted to kind of bring you through as a reminder of where we got this inspiration from, Josh Kaufman and his method, and how we actually were able to do that.
Yeah. And for those that haven't seen our first video going over this, we go over this in a whole lot more detail in our very first video, talking about what the whole skill acquisition process is.
Why we're called the 21st hour.
Exactly. It has to do with how many hours it takes to learn a skill. And so the first process that Josh Kaufman said about this is to deconstruct the skill. So like you were saying, audio recording, I think that first time when we gathered out all the equipment, set it on the table, it was kind of like this hodgepodge of, we brought equipment, each of us kind of had something, and we're trying to figure out
mics, new mics, cords.
Yeah, how can we make this fit? The scene that came to my mind when we did it was in Apollo 13, where they say, hey, we have this filter and we need to fit the square filter into the circular one. Yep. And we're like trying to figure it out, then getting duct tape out, it felt like, to just make it all work. And then we eventually said, we don't need to be doing this. We're just going to buy everything that makes it work. So
for sure. And that's what we ended up doing. And so that's what deconstructing the skill. Remember, it's the podcasting was the skill we wanted to learn. But that's a whole big umbrella thing. And so within that are these little mini skills, sub skills that we were learning. So audio recording was one of them. Another one was the actual filming.
Yeah.
And so again, we ended up getting 3 phones, different iPhone for our cameras, because we're like, hey, we really want that 3 angles. We want the angle on Metro, on Holmes, and with both of us. And
it was super nice to be able to airdrop them to the MacBook that we have. So that was one of the reasons we chose the iPhones. Maybe we'll upgrade. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But just starting out, that's what we ended up doing.
But I mean, even with that, filming is also the lighting that we have, the setup we have, the backdrop, the table,
the
equipment we're using. And so there's so much stuff that goes into it that you don't think. They're like, oh, but at first our lighting was kind of crappy.
Yeah.
It didn't look that good. And we were like, we need to do something about that. So it was a learning process.
One little thing about filming that I wasn't prepared for that is so crucial. We do it every single time, and it is probably the most important thing to do in starting recording. You know what I'm going to say.
The sound clap?
The sound clap. Let's do it. 1, 2, 3. Doing that to sync up the audio.
It's huge.
I never even considered that. And obviously we see that in movies that they do the soundboard.
And action.
Yep. And they do the click. And so that's been a fun thing that I didn't realize would be so crucial. So we have the editing, we have the speaking, figuring out the different channels of creating a YouTube channel and spending the hours that we did there, and creating the Spotify channel and the TikTok and the Instagram. That took a whole lot more than I thought it would be. And
it's still fairly simple,
yeah.
But again, it's just time consuming. It's just the little details of like registering, the email, the difference, what you're going to call it, the title, the description, the logo. And then each account's slightly different, has slightly different rules, different styles. And so it's all those little things that just add up when you're like, when me and Mitch were like, let's start a podcast. Like, this is the fun part.
This is the fun part.
It is the fun part, but it's a lot more than just setting up 2 mics and speaking, as we find out.
So then the next step in the process of skill acquisition is learn enough to self-correct. So we both have some experience with podcasts in the past. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about your experience?
Yeah, I definitely want to dive into that. And so just before, but it says learn enough to self-correct. So this isn't learn everything you know about the topic. It's just learn enough to get in there to say, oh, I see what I'm doing wrong because I've tried this for 15 minutes, an hour, whatever. And so then now I can make those micro adjustments to know. And so a little bit about me is this is now my 5th podcast I've started in venturing and trying different stuff. And so I've tried it with some previous friends just back in college, and we weren't nearly as serious about it as we are now. And so just a lot of that, some shortcomings. But a shout out, if you go to my first podcast called Sitting on a Bench, we were early on the COVID stuff. We posted in like January 2020. We basically predicted COVID. Dead serious.
You're kidding.
No, yeah.
You predicted COVID.
That's a little bit, much to say, but we were early on it, very early on it, and we have the actual post when it was posted, recorded. Again, the audio probably sounds like crap, but it's there, and we were talking about the SARS-CoV virus way early on before anyone else.
Wow.
So, little shout out.
Look at you go. Sitting on a bench.
Yep.
And it's on Spotify.
It should still be there, I believe.
Cool.
I haven't checked it in a long time.
Let's drop the link there.
And shout out to my good friend that I was doing that with by the time. So we'll have him on one of these days.
Was that two hands?
It was, yeah. But like I said, through all those different experiences, I was able to learn a lot more about, like I said, I think a lot with the consistency, what it took to post every week, have something go out every single day. And like I said, just the seriousness of some of the investment of paying for the stuff and, the setup, the planning, all that we've said before. And so that's been a huge lesson for me to learn enough to self-correct where we're at, where we are now.
Yeah. I totally agree. I had a similar...
And you've had some experience too, yeah. Tell me about it.
Mine was mostly just, I was the audio editor for a podcast. We talked about American history stories. And
that sounds fascinating.
I could tell a lot of stories on that.
At some point, I want a little history corner because this guy, he knows a lot, and I would love to learn more. But that's besides the point.
Anyway, so I was mostly just doing the audio editing. They brought me on a couple times, and I spoke, and we had cords going everywhere. It was a mess. But through this process, I think one of the biggest way for me to learn how to self-correct was actually reviewing the podcast after the fact. Kind of like when you film yourself playing basketball or shooting or dribbling, being able to look at, wow, my form's awful there, or I need to self-correct this way, and actually being able to...
It's that third-person view, basically.
Yeah.
Because I know what I sound like, and I know sometimes I'm like, oh, that was a decent podcast, but like you said, it wasn't until getting in the weeds of doing the short form, back to earlier how hard it is to talk. I was telling Mitch, I was like, dude, I'm so annoyed. I can't make my points. I'm rambling on. I'm saying like this, like that, It's annoying. It's frustrating, but it's a good way to self-correct to know, oh, that's how people are seeing me on the other side. That's how the viewer's consuming me. And saying, would I watch this? And sometimes I'm like, I don't know. Other times I'm like, that was really good. We've had some good moments, but it's a very uncomfortable and almost just like showing it right there in your face to say, here's what you sound like, here's what you look like. And so it's like any good sports person, review the tape, watch the film.
Yep.
That's how you're gonna get better. And I think we've already gotten better, and I think we can still have a lot way to go. So
I agree. So the last step is remove practice barriers. I remember we set up a meeting with a podcast producer to ask
I remember that. I forgot.
Yeah, to ask those similar questions of like, what should we be considering? He told us some helpful tips. He said, I can't bring you on. I'm too busy. He's had some pretty successful channels, so we love that. Maybe we'll partner with him in the future. Who knows? But that was a very, I would say, hinge point part of our journey, being able to say, let's remove the mental barriers. When he said, that is a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Or both of them are great ideas. It was very validating to me. And so on top of buying the background and buying the table and the mics, having that conversation with him removed mental barriers for me of figuring out that this could actually work. And I don't think I would have been as confident in that first episode without that. And so that's part of it is, yes, you got to buy the stuff to make it happen. You have to get the cameras.
You got to walk us through a lot of the stuff we've bought and when we bought them.
Okay, so I was just keeping track of this just so that I could know.
It's a good reference point to know when we like what you're getting right now. This content.
Content?
I'm gonna stop. But go back in time to say when we actually first started doing this, and just starting a podcast wasn't like a week-long process. It was a lot longer. So
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, we did that hodgepodge meeting where we brought all of the equipment that we had. That was early March. I don't remember the date of that. It might have been when we bought the stuff because we were just fed up. But we eventually bought these mics March 11th of 2025. And we bought the mixer. Turned out it was wrong.
one. We had to get a new one.
We couldn't do anything. We bought the new one that we use now, March 17th. Around April 9th and 10th is when we bought the table and the backdrops. We bought the cameras at around that same time. And then May 6th published our first episode. And so we started having this conversation, like, I'd say probably 1st of March, sometime around that time period, and published May 6th. So, like, a full 2 months of prep and trying to figure things out. And I remember installing this backdrop. Things didn't look right. We had to do it again.
Make some cuts, do some different stuff. Yeah, I remember
the
that.
audio interface turned out to not be an audio interface. We couldn't get it to record us. Couldn't get it how we liked.
And even if you want to take it before that too, like February, January, earlier this year, we had talked about this even last summer, just like the first ideation of everything.
Yeah.
But getting serious about it was like the beginning of this year to say, having actual conversations a few times to say, what would we actually do? What's the topics? What's the vision? What do we think? And
Yep.
so even take it back a couple months before that, like I remember those early on conversations of really like getting serious about it. No more just bros, kind of just.
We should
hanging
start a
out.
podcast.
We should do it. We were like, no, what if we actually did it though?
Yeah.
And so it's been fun to see. And hopefully if you're out there thinking about it, be quicker than us.
Yeah.
Just get to it, commit, buy the stuff, make a little bit investment, and send it. So
probably in a week we'll provide the equipment we're using.
Oh, we should. All the links.
Yeah. And most of them are on Amazon. We bought some stuff on eBay, so obviously can't use that. But we'll provide everything that we're using. If you want a similar setup to what we have, we'll provide all that. We did the work, so you don't have to do that research. The best deal I think we found was these mics. So 4 mics, 4 cables, 4 stands, everything, all for $100 total for 4 of them. That was
a steal.
Serious steal.
Steal.
So that brings us to the last point of our good friend Josh.
That's the last point in his 4 method breakdown of how to learn skills, how to practice intelligently.
It's just to practice. And so we looked back and we probably, of the 20 hours you're supposed to do in a month that we're trying to work on, we've probably done 50 hours. This really was a monster, which is why we didn't do chess. And so we want to still do chess, but it took up a whole lot more than we were thinking on top of jobs and social lives and family and relationships and things that way.
I mean, and with that too, that's 50 hours for each of us.
Yeah.
Me and Mitch and our guy in the chair.
Yep, exactly.
And so it's been we've exceeded that 20 hours and we've already seen that skill gap increase. Just as a quick little note, like I'm not claiming anything of me being a good editor or not, but I'm starting to get the hang of it.
Yeah.
And I no longer have those like questions. I feel the groove of doing short form of different stuff, and I'm sure it's similar, with some engineering the audio, getting the setup, talking, speaking. Like, I think we're past that. A lot of those initial barriers of we're decent at it.
Yeah.
Like we're okay. And imagine 100 hours down the road, 1,000 hours.
Yeah.
Sky's the limit.
I've already had people ask me about this as I talk with them, and they say, oh, give me some tips and some tricks. And I'll say, well, if you really want to have that conversation, let's talk about it. Yeah. And
just buy our course. We're selling.
We're not selling
$1,400.
Stop that
it's
right now.
It's a good deal. I'm just kidding. No course.
No courses. So just looking to the future, just a couple questions for you. What has been the most fun, or I want to say, enjoyable part of this whole process. Yeah, there's been some things that have been a little bit tedious.
We just went over the 5 brutal truths. So.
Yeah, but what has been the fun part of it? What have you been looking back on it? What have you said? Wow, this has all been worth it because of blank.
Oh, that's an intense question.
Well, I'm an intense guy.
All right. There's several things. I've liked, at least I feel like I've been a little bit better at articulating my thoughts and being more comfortable in front of a camera. But honestly, what's kind of excited me the most, or been the most rewarding, is, this may be shallow, I don't know, looking at the analytics.
Yeah.
It's fun to see. Again, I would like just to share this with, even if 5 people saw it or whatever.
Yeah.
You're a good friend. I enjoy talking about what we talk about. But it is fun to see there's real numbers and there's faces behind those numbers. And to see some of the response of some of the videos that have gotten several thousand views. And it's just fun to see, if you post consistently, I just like seeing some of that growth. And I like seeing that vision of even our product getting better, of where I feel like, the thumbnail looks better. Yeah. We sound better. The title's better. The description, how we speak, how we edit. Seeing that progress is very fulfilling. And that's been an underrated part for me. A guy who's not usually as numbers oriented, or I'm about the people, the feel, the vibes. For me, it's surprisingly, I love kind of checking those out and looking to say, we can do this. We can keep growing and we can see some success and we can, get our mark on the internet, so to speak, put ourselves out there. So
I totally agree. When that first Darth Maul video took off that Saturday, and we were all freaking out of, is this actually happening? And the amount of times I heard you go, can you still be a Star Wars fan and hate Darth Maul? Or maybe it's Switch.
Can you hate Darth Maul and still be a Star Wars fan?
You got it.
The AI hook. Use it. Sometimes. I don't know. We're still trying to figure out.
We don't know what will work and what won't.
We don't know what we're doing.
But that Saturday hyped me up. I had so much fun just staring at my phone, not doom scrolling, but looking at YT Studio on the analytics side of things. I totally agree with you. It was weirdly fulfilling.
Dude, and we both had this too. Random people have come up to me, just people friends of friends, cousins of cousins, whatever, a couple times out of the blue. I haven't told a ton of people about this podcast. Yeah. They're like, hey, I saw you on Instagram, or hey, I saw you on YouTube, or I was like, and so that's been fun to see. Just a few times that's happened. Nothing crazy yet, but a few people where I'm like, oh, you saw us.
Yeah, I was at a Memorial Day party and somebody said, hey, I saw your podcast. What's up with it? And I was like, I barely even know you.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's been fun. So then, last question: what is the thing going forward that you want to improve on the most?
Yeah, so like I said, this episode's been about kind of the harsh realities behind the scenes of, it's a lot more work than you think, but we want to let you guys know that we're serious about this. We're excited about it. And so with a question like that, I'm looking to improve the most on, I think my speaking and short form editing. I've been mostly doing that, a lot of short form editing.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of strategies and different things I want to try, and different ideas of storytelling and music and edits that I want to do. And so I'm excited about that. But mostly I really do see a long-term goal of mine has always been to be a better speaker. I want to be more articulate. I want to be smarter, funnier, just find my actual voice, who I am, how I sound. And that's going to be an exciting journey for me going forward. And I really want that to hone that craft, sharpen that sword. So I'm very confident to be like, hey, you can kind of do debates. I want to feel confident that I could do debates. I could do stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
I could tell a story. I can do a podcast. I can interview people. I want all of that.
Yeah.
And I know that's I'm fine if that takes 2, 3, 5 years. But, talking every week is going to get you the hours. I can promise you that. So I'm excited about that. What about you? What are you most excited for? Or what are you looking forward to the most?
Yeah, that's a great question. I am really excited about, I don't know, there's a lot of things. I think improving wise, similarly, I want to become more articulate. I want to stop saying like so much.
Um,
All those things, so that I can be more confident in expressing my thoughts. I have a lot of hot takes sometimes, and sometimes they come out very garbled, and I hate that. And I want to be able to be persuasive, give my point, and go from there. So I that's what I'm looking forward to as we just keep on practicing is we're going to get better. And I think the other thing is I'm excited about the engagement with the community that we've already been seeing. Reaching out with community on the comments and responding to those. That has been super fun and I want to get better at staying on top of that.
that's true. I do think we should review our goals and stuff, and capturing the community I think is going to be a huge thing because I would love to take it from just listening to us to engaging with us online to actually meeting people in person.
Yeah.
I think that's when you're like, oh, this is real.
Yeah.
And so we're excited. So that's it for today. But like I said, stay with us. Have some patience. Have some grace. We're still learning. We've learned a ton from this first month, but like I said, we're going hard
We
for
are
this year.
going hard.
So stay with us.
Just remember, this is your hour.